We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Corey Byron. I'm the Director of Guidance here at the high school. Why don't we start with introductions first? So Julie, do you want to start?
Sure. My name is Julie O'Neill. I am one of the guidance counselors at the high school. Thank you everyone for coming.
And I'm Janelle Cost. I'm one of the guidance counselors as well at the high school.
And I'm Chrissy Merrick, one of the guidance counselors as well.
Okay, thank you all for joining. Julie, could you go ahead and share your screen so we can get the presentation started? Today we're going to be talking about college planning and preparation for students 9 through 11. That's where the focus will be. We have a presentation we do specifically for the senior class to talk about how the application process goes and how we can assist students. Today we'll be talking about all the things leading up to that. You can go to the next slide, Julie. We have some upcoming events I wanted to let you all know about. On Tuesday, March 15th, there will be a presentation by College Aid Pro. They're going to be going over everything you need to know about financial aid and scholarships. This is going to be the first presentation in a series to help parents and families be more prepared for the financial aid process. So we will have more moving forward. I believe there will definitely be one in the fall going over the FAFSA and how to fill it out. And we're thinking about adding another one when seniors receive their financial aid packages, how to read those packages and how to compare them and how to work with colleges. So Tuesday, March 15th will be the first of that series. I'll be sending out the information, the Zoom link, once I receive it from Matthew Carpenter, who will be the presenter from College Aid Pro. On Wednesday, March 30th, we're having a college admissions panel. That will be at least four admissions reps from St. Anselm's, Stonehill, UMass Amherst, and the other school is escaping me right now. But they were going to be presenting on their schools and answering questions on the application process, how admissions looks at students. So that will be Wednesday, March 30th at 6:30 p.m. I encourage all of you to attend and to spread the word. You're getting all the information straight from the colleges, and it has been really helpful for students when they are applying. On Wednesday, April 6th, we rescheduled the pre-ACT for sophomores only during the school day. Originally, we were going to do it right after we returned from break, but due to COVID and some of the restrictions we had to reschedule. And now looking at it, it's probably better we did, so the students will have more time in the classroom with math, because some of the math that will be on there will be brand new to them. So now they'll have more instruction, so they'll know more about the content. So that's going to be during the school day. All sophomores are required to take it. And if you have any questions on that, you can reach out to one of us or your child-specific guidance counselor. On Wednesday, April 13th, we're having a school day, so in-school SAT for juniors only. Registration has closed, but if your student hasn't registered yet, I do have a few spots open. So you can just shoot me an email at kbyron@Hanover Schools, and we will be happy to make some room for them. Next slide. Okay.
All right, so we're going to start off just by talking about the Google Classrooms that we have for every class at Hanover High. We have guidance Google Classrooms, so class of 2023, 24, 25. And these Google Classrooms, every student has been added to them, and they're a really great way for us to communicate with students different things about college, so scholarship opportunities, summer enrichment opportunities. A lot of colleges will do summer programs that are in the area, so we try to post those on the classroom. College experience opportunities to go on tours and college fairs, career and job opportunities, and just important announcements. Right now we're doing the junior workshops, so we try to announce those on the Google Classroom. If you would like to be a part of the Google Classroom as well, you can send your child's guidance counselor an email and we can add you to the Google Classroom for their year. I believe you need to have a Gmail account to be a part of the Google Classroom. So as long as you have that, we can add you and you can see some of the announcements as well. And then we also just want to give you an overview about what we do at Hanover High as guidance counselors. So a big piece is social emotional learning, so helping with anxiety and stress management, depression, social awareness, relationship skills, and kind of all the things that go into mental health. We definitely want to help support your child, and we believe that when a child is, has a strong, mental health, they can do the best as possible in school. And also, college planning can be stressful. So we're here to help with the stress management of that. We're here for college preparation. So helping out with pre-ACT and PSAT opportunities. The SAT school day, which Corey just mentioned, is a great opportunity for your child to take the SAT, but in a more familiar setting, doing it during the school day rather than on a Saturday morning. College search and research, so helping your child figure out what colleges they might be interested in, taking what preferences they have, what they want to study, maybe what area they want to be in, and giving them a few options that maybe they hadn't thought about already. Course planning, so helping them with creating their schedules and making sure that they're taking the classes that they need to take, but also classes that they want to take and that will look really good for their transcripts. We are helping with career and, college planning. We're using a new system called SCORE, which we are going to talk about a little bit more later in this presentation. But we've been getting everybody kind of set up on SCORE and helping them start their U-Science career profile. Helping with standardized test registration. So again, SATs and ACTs. And helping out with teacher letter of recommendations, which we are going to talk about later as well. And then if you have juniors this year, next year they'll be doing senior workshops with us in small groups. Right now they're doing junior workshops in small groups to start the college process. The senior workshops will be more about really digging into the application process and getting started using Common App, making sure that they have teacher recommendations, requesting transcripts. So all of that is coming up for their senior year. And the next thing, and I think that this can kind of be a big question, what do colleges review during admissions? So I think kind of the number one thing that people think of when they're thinking about college admissions is, looking at grade point average and your transcript. So that's really, what your GPA is, which is an average of all of the grades that your child has received in high school. Colleges will see their GPA after their junior year. And their rank, class rank. So we don't do exact ranks. So, if there's 180 people in the class, colleges aren't going to see that a student is 30 out of 180. They're going to see what their decile rank is. And so that would be, your child's in the top 10% of the class, top 20%, top 30%, and so on. And we've just found that that is a better measure for admissions. They're also going to look at course curriculum, so what courses we teach at Hanover High and what courses your child took, kind of taking a look at what they've learned during their time here. Standardized test scores, so that's the SAT or ACT test scores. Colleges definitely haven't looked at standardized test scores as strongly since COVID. A lot more schools have gone test optional, meaning that your child may not have to send their test scores to the schools that they're applying to or some of the schools that they're applying to if they don't want to, or if they feel like their test scores aren't a really great representation of who they are as a student. But if they have strong test scores or if a school is not test optional and does require you to send test scores, it's definitely good to have taken the SAT or the ACT so you at least have something to send. Teacher letters of recommendation. So we ask students to think of 2 teachers to write a letter of recommendation for them. We, usually recommend 2 teachers that they have a good relationship with. Maybe they did really well in their class. Maybe it was a class they struggled in, but they worked really closely with their teacher and they can speak to how hard of a worker they are. So that's something we work with students to kind of figure out who are the 2 best teachers you can ask for that. And then their guidance counselor will also write them a letter of rec. The college essay is a big piece. I think the college essay really can set students apart. So when colleges are comparing students who have, you know, a very similar GPA, a similar transcript, they've taken a lot of the same classes, but somebody with a really creative essay might be the person who has the edge for admissions. So we definitely recommend creativity and really trying to show a side of you that your transcript or your activities and your extracurricular things that you do after school don't really already highlight. Extracurricular activities, so this could be anything, you know, sports, clubs, any leadership positions, you know, student council, anything like that. Community service that you've done either for school or in the community. And then work, so, you know, if your child has a job that also looks good, shows that they're responsible. A college interview if applicable, so sometimes colleges allow students to interview with them. They might reach out to set up an interview, or if your child is really, really interested in one or two specific colleges, they can reach out to admissions and request an interview. And that looks really good. It shows that they are very interested in the school, and it gives them a chance to, or gives admissions a chance to put a face with a name for the application. And lastly, demonstrated interest. So this is basically just kind of showing a school that you are really interested in this school. This goes a long way because, you know, students could apply to a whole list of schools, but showing, you know, one or two schools that this is the school I really want to be at, I'm really interested in it, really means a lot to admissions. So this could be something like requesting an interview and wanting to take that next step with a school's admissions. It could be, you know, signing up for college tours. If you can do an in-person tour, that is amazing, and you can really get the feel for the school. And they keep a list of everybody who's done a tour. You can sign up for a virtual tour if it's far away, or if you're, you know, not able to get there. You know, connecting with admissions offices, so that's sending emails with questions about the application or about the school in general. And then attending info sessions. So a lot of schools have virtual information sessions, and, you know, they keep record of who have attended those as well. So really anything you can do to show the school that you're interested in it definitely can go a long way with admissions. So COVID-19 obviously has impacted all of our lives in a million ways, and it's affected college admissions as well. So really, I think it has made colleges have to kind of look at students more holistically and really look at their full application, looking more at the essay and the recommendations, because COVID can definitely impact grades, especially I think when we were remote and hybrid. That's, you know, was really tough for students to kind of get used to and get acquainted with. And then this year, you know, so many students have been out for you know, being sick or having to stay home in quarantine. So colleges know that grades have been impacted by COVID, and standardized tests may be less important than in previous years. Again, a lot of schools had to be test optional in, you know, the 2020-2021 admissions season, just because so many SAT sites were closed due to COVID. So colleges have kind of continued staying test optional, because standardized tests aren't always the best predictor of how well a student will do in college. Essays will probably count for more than they have in the past. So again, it's super important to have like a creative, engaging essay that an admissions counselor is excited to read. Letters of recommendation could come from a teacher that a student may only know from hybrid or remote learning. So last year, students may not have gotten to know their teachers as much as they had in previous years, but they have a good relationship with the teacher from hybrid learning. It's definitely okay to still ask for a letter of rec from them. We have seen that the nation's top schools saw a record number of early applications for fewer spots. So these are the really highly selective schools, the Ivy Leagues, while the rest of the country's colleges that may not be quite as selective are facing a decrease in enrollment. So it's definitely more competitive for the more selective schools, and they've seen a decrease for the less selective schools. And then on the right, there are helpful websites. I can post these all in the chat as well in a little bit, just for you to check them out. But these are good resources for signing up for standardized testing, seeing what schools are test optional on their test, and getting some information about financial aid.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the admission standards for the Massachusetts State Universities and the UMasses. So those would be the things like Salem State, Westfield State, Bridgewater, and then any of the UMass institutions. These are the minimum standards that these institutions require. So the state has set these standards out as minimum courses that they need to have in order to be eligible to attend or apply and get accepted to one of those institutions. So the English, they need 4 courses throughout English 9 through 12. Mathematics, it's anywhere from Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, Pre-Calculus, and all the way up to Calculus, depending on the route that your child is taking for their math courses. In science, they're looking for natural or physical science, or they can look at technology and engineering. It needs to be 3 courses with laboratory work is what they're looking for. And a lot of our courses here in science do have lab components. 2 years of social studies, it needs to be at least US History 1 and 2. And then obviously if they take more than that, foreign language minimum is 2 courses in the single language. So either in French or Spanish, it needs to be 2 courses concurrently happening, either French 1, French 2, Spanish 1, Spanish 2. Elective courses can be anywhere, anything in arts, humanities, computer science, music, anything that your student is taking, at least 2 courses in those elective areas. And the minimum requirement of a GPA is a 3.0. So these are the minimum. If students take more than that, that's certainly going to enhance their transcript. But having even the minimum isn't necessarily a guarantee of admissions, because they do look at a wide range of things when they're looking at students. So it's not just that they have to have this and this guarantees their admissions. This is just one component of what they have to have as a minimum. If your student does have below a 3.0, a lot of the colleges in the past have asked that they submit test scores if they're available. Typically, there's not really a minimum GPA that they have to have. However, typically they're asking for at least a 2.5 or higher for students to apply to any of these state universities or the UMasses. So that leads us into when you're looking at the course curriculum that you're planning for your child for high school. They're going to be discussing and looking at all of the different options, and they can certainly come and speak to us as the guidance counselors to make sure that they're choosing both challenging classes and making sure that they're going to be successful in them. We do encourage that students really enroll in courses that are going to challenge them, or if they're thinking about a particular major that they're interested in, that they're looking at courses that will pertain to that, if it's possible, if we offer that. As you can see, when you look at our minimum course requirements, just in comparison to what you looked at from the state requirements, we actually ask of them more than what's required for the state colleges. So the 4 years of English is the same, the 4 years of math is the same. We do ask for 3 years of science and 3 years of history, 2 years of the world language. So there are some similarities. We are aligned with those requirements, but we actually ask a little bit more. So when do you begin looking at that with your students? In February to March, which is coming up, we're going to be starting the process of doing course recommendations by the classroom teachers and then rolling out registration so that students can begin starting to look and inputting their course requests. If they have any questions, they certainly can reach out to us as the guidance counselor, and we're happy to help them. I mean, my biggest thing that I would say to any student is you do want to challenge yourself in the courses, either that it pertains to what you want to do in the future or areas where you have strengths, and try to continue to challenge yourself through your years of high school. That is what they're looking for, is a progressive growth in each of the subjects. Are they challenging themselves, getting good grades in those classes, and really kind of focusing on the areas where they're really, really strong. If your student is looking at a more competitive college, although we require 3 years of science and history, we do often tell them a 4th year is a great idea if they're able to or possible, or even additional years of world language so that they can be ready for whatever the admission standards will be at both private and public colleges.
I was muted, sorry. I know Julie mentioned our new platform called SCORE. We are using this moving forward instead of Naviance for those who are familiar with our old program. SCORE is innovative and new college platform that we just started introducing to our juniors. I'm gonna share, I think I can share my screen. I'm gonna share my screen just to show you what SCORE looks like. Is that?
I can stop sharing and then.
Okay. Can you see my screen, guys?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once a student logs into SCORE, this is essentially what their profile looks like. Our students in the junior class, in our workshops, we're working on loading in the personal details, working on an activity resume. So each time they log in, they're going to be adding their different activities and achievement. And SCORE is really great because it auto creates the resume for students. So once they have added all of their activities and achievements, they will have an activities resume that they can submit to colleges if they choose to. One of the things that is really helpful to students, and we started this already with our juniors and hopefully we'll roll this out to sophomores this year, is the U Science profile. So I'm just going to click on the profile so you can see what it looks like. So once the students have completed the assessment, there's 11 pieces and our juniors are currently 3/4 of the way through the assessment. At the end, it comes out and gives them best fit careers. It tells them colleges that fit their needs. And it also gives them their talents, their types of personality, and their different approaches to their work ethic. So as you can see, some of the guidance counselors sat and we all took this together and it came out with different talents and this is mine that I completed, gave me what my strengths were, how I contribute to a team, and different types of work that work for me. The other piece that the kids will really enjoy, I believe, is to look at the different careers. So after we took the assessment, this is what the results were for me, and students can come in and learn about, how much money they'll make, a job description, what colleges have the major that fits their personality and their interests. So the U Science assessment has been, I think will be very helpful to students, especially if they aren't sure of what they want to do or what direction they want to go. The other piece in SCORE, and in the presentation, we have some videos to kind of, you guys can click on, we'll put them in the chat so you can learn more about SCORE. Students can also invite a parent. So if you're a parent of a current junior, you might have already received the invite, but parents can go in and they can suggest colleges that they think that your student might like. Counselors will also be making suggestions. So underneath the suggested schools, you'll see a list from your child's counselor, also ones that you have made, and also what schools the student has added. So students are doing their own college searches here, and we've shown them how to research schools and help them get started on the college process. So let me go back. Julie, do you want to share your screen again so we can go back to the presentation? I don't know how to.
Sure. Do you mind stopping sharing your screen?
For some reason, it's not letting me.
Let me see if I can just take
I can go back. Hold on.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Or is it still mine? Sorry, Janelle and Chris Ann, what screen are you seeing?
I can see Corey's.
Okay, so we're just gonna go and I'll do this. Okay. Okay, so as I was able to show you under SCORE and U Science, those are our new platforms that we're doing for students. Students can do college searches, college matches. There's also the ability to do virtual tours, view college profiles. scattergrams. They can set their college preferences. And as I mentioned, creating a resume that will be helpful for the college process. The scattergrams is something that the students have found over the years in Naviance and in SCORE that are very helpful to understand how can I create a college list that's realistic for me. So for this particular school, you can see that the green circles are accepted and the triangles are not accepted. So a student will find where their GPA is, and if they have PSAT or SAT or ACT scores, they will be plotted somewhere on this graph. So for this school, if your student is plotted over here, this would say that this would be more of a REACH school, or if they're plotted all the way up here where there's like 4.5, then that would be a safety school for them. So it helps students get a realistic view of, is this a good school for me, and what do I need to do during my high school career to get into this school? So it's really good for freshmen and sophomores to also see what the expectations are for college.
So the PSATs, that kind of leads us into the part, that with the scattergram plots, is that all juniors were required to take the test. So if your student did take it, they took it in October, and we did do that here at the school in the gym. And then the scores did get sent to them electronically from the College Board in early December. So hopefully you've received them back already. And often we get questions about, how do I actually read these scores now that I have them back? It can be pretty confusing, and I'm going to show you a sample report in just a minute in the next slide. But the benchmarks of the scores are kind of to let you know if your student is college ready. If a student scores above that benchmark, they're going to be on track, and they're absolutely going to be ready for going forward with college when they graduate. What not to worry about is that if they've taken it and they're not quite there yet, that's okay. There's still more time. So there'll be time for them to continue to get ready before they graduate from high school. So when you're looking at the benchmark, we also get a lot of questions of what is the average score. So the average score typically can be about a 920. I'm going to show you a sample report just to give you a little bit of an idea of what they saw if you've seen it yourself and you've looked at it together. So if you can go to the next screen, Corey. One more back. The sample report kind of gives you the total number along the top. This is like the total number that they received. So if you're looking at the evidence-based reading and writing score of 430 plus the math score of 530, that's the total score above. The range, the small little thing next to it, that's going to be a range of score your student could get. So that's not, so if they're a 960, they could have gotten between a 320 and a 1520. Right below that, you're going to see where it says you are the 51st percentile. The score percentile is the percent of students who took the test and scored higher or lower. Okay, so your score is equal or higher than 51% of the students that took the test. So that's what that means. So underneath, you're going to see that 430 and 530, you add them together, as I said, is the 960. This is where it shows your students that they're ready for college or they still have work to do. So depending on what your student received, your score shows that you're almost on track based on the 430. And at the 530, your score shows that you're on track and you're ready for college. Your test scores below, those three sort of subtests that you see, this section of scores are based on your student's raw score in each section, which is the number of questions they actually got correct. So if you have questions about the score report, we can absolutely try to help you determine any answers, any questions that you have, or we can give you some resources to let you know a little bit more about how to read those. But that's sort of a quick overview of how to look at it when you're looking at the score report for your individual student. So the Khan Academy is an opportunity where if your student did take the PSATs, the College Board has created a partnership with them. And they've allowed students to have 20 hours of practice total, and it's free. They can absolutely sign up or connect their results to Khan Academy at any, once they look at the results, they can connect it. What they've seen when they've looked at it is those 20 hours of practice on average has allowed a 115-point score increase. So when they sort of back in 2007, when they started the partnership, or just about a year or two after that, they looked at all of this information and they saw that there was quite an improvement when the students actually practice using the Khan Academy. So if your student hasn't already linked their PSAT scores to the Khan Academy, they can do that at any point in time. And what they will do is give a personalized assessment of their scores and their performance and try to give them an opportunity to focus on the areas where they need to improve. So if you haven't already done that with your student, it is a great free opportunity to practice before they're thinking about taking the test in April.
Okay, I'm actually gonna stop sharing my screen and Julie's gonna take over. If you have questions, you can go ahead and place them in the chat and we'll do our best to either answer them live or we'll answer them in the chat. Let's go ahead.
Can everyone see my
Yes.
screen? Okay, awesome.
So with standardized testing has been kind of a hot topic because years ago it was a huge contributor to what college admissions really looked at when they were assessing students. Now, due to a variety of reasons, including COVID, it has become less important. Some colleges have gone test optional through at least 2024, and they're doing some case studies to see how how it will impact their classes and the class makeup for the students they've gone SAT optional for. So that's good news for those students who are not great test takers. With the standardized testing, students, we do recommend take it at least one time just to see how they do. We encourage them to take the SAT school day because it's a familiar environment. If students decide they want to do it on their own, you have to register at collegeboard.org. And students are recommended to take the SAT in March, April, or May of their junior year. The reason why we recommend them taking it later in the year is because the SAT shifted more to testing the content through Algebra 2. So if students are juniors and taking Algebra 2, the more math they have in their classroom, the better they'll do on the SAT. So that's why we're offering it more in April than any earlier. If they decide not to take it here at the high school, you will be have the option to select a local high school that does offer the Saturday test. So we again recommend that students take the SAT at least one time. The Pre-SAT is a new test. It offers sophomores an early experience with ACT test items. We shifted from having the sophomores take the PSAT because we wanted students to be exposed to both types of standardized tests. The ACT is another option, which I believe we're going to be talking about in the next slide. But students will have the option of getting exposed to this test. It also has a career inventory along with this test. So it provides a lot of information to help students with the college search. Again, as I mentioned earlier, all 10th graders are required to take this. So the ACT is another standardized test. All colleges in the United States take either the SAT or the ACT. The ACT is scored out of 36 points. They also have an optional writing test. And if you sign up for the optional essay, the test takes just over 4 hours with breaks. And as I mentioned, we like students to at least take one standardized test. Now, with students having the experience as sophomores taking the pre-ACT and taking the PSAT, students can compare which test would be better for them. If you have a current junior, I would recommend that you have your student take both to see how they do. So that way you can compare which test they did better on, and we can help you with that. So as I mentioned, colleges accept both the SAT and ACT. You can send either or for all colleges. The ACT tends to be more popular in the Midwest. Up in the Northeast, we are SAT people. So it's really just geographical what students take more. One test is not better than the other. Sometimes it's just about how a student takes the test, that they like the format of the SAT better than the ACT. They're just, they test very similar things, but it's just the format. The College Board's no longer offering SAT subject tests or the SAT with essay. They found that it was not helpful in college admission, so they dropped it. So that's good news for students who don't like standardized testing. So again, we would recommend that all students take at least sit for standardized testing at least once. See Ryan. Okay, so I mentioned testing optional. Many colleges and universities have gone testing optional, and it's really hard to know what schools have done that unless you go directly to the college admissions website and look at their requirements for college. Or you can go to fairtest.org, which Julie mentioned earlier in this presentation. Fair Test will give you a list of schools that are all testing optional, and you can sort by state. So it will be helpful for students who are looking to go to California, Montana, or anywhere in the continental United States. I believe actually there's some schools in Hawaii that are testing optional, so Fair Test will be able to tell you that. We get a lot of questions. If I don't send my standardized test score, is that going to put me at a disadvantage? If colleges are saying testing optional, it is exactly that. What they will do is if you send tests, they'll just consider it as part of your application. But if you don't, it doesn't put you at a disadvantage. They want to, have students be able to choose if they want to, if in fact they are testing optional. So we can also, when we meet with students, provide some recommendations on whether or not to send scores. So we can do that, individually with each student.
Okay, I'm going to be talking about types of admissions for colleges. Regular admission is students typically apply in January and February. Rolling admission is almost like a first come, first serve. They can apply throughout the year, and the colleges review the applications as they come in. Open admission is typically for community colleges, which means that you're typically accepted as long as you have a GED or a high school diploma. Early decision, that's a binding contract, so the student is only allowed to apply early decision to one colleges. And with the binding contract, that means basically if you are accepted, you need to go to the school. You also have to withdraw all your other applications to schools once you are admitted early decision. Early action, this has definitely been a trend over the years of many students feeling the need to apply early. That's typically, kids' applications are due as early as October 15th, all the way through December 15th. And for some kids, it just offers peace of mind that they have it done, and then now they can focus on, the rest of their senior year. Restrictive early action, it's similar to early decision, but you're allowed to apply to a few different schools, not just one. Deferred admission is when a student is accepted, but the admission is deferred for typically a year. So the question is, how do I know which type of admission plan is best for me if a college offers early action, restrictive early action, or early decision? We always recommend that kids talk to their guidance counselors about what is best for them according to their profile. Okay, so we highly recommend that kids make appointments. We have workshops, but we also want kids to know they can come down and speak individually to their counselor. Okay, the college application, how to apply. There is one application. It's called the Common App. It can be used for over 900 colleges. It's available on August 1st for the upcoming school year. Kids can go on and create an account as early as that date. To find out which schools accept that, you can easily go to the commonapp.org website. School-based applications, those are for schools that do not take Common App. There are a few, I know off the top of my head, Salem State, I'm not sure if that's changed, but Westfield, Endicott, there's a few schools that do not take Common App. Therefore, the student then goes to the website and applies directly onto the school's website. The coalition application, it's a diverse group of 150 distinguished colleges. The benefit of applying through a coalition application is that there's typically a set of free online college planning tools. Teacher recommendations. Typically, we have kids ask a teacher for recommendation at the end of their junior year. It's important for them to practice their conversational skills, so we have them requested in person to the teacher. Once they do that, they will give their teacher what's called a student information sheet. This helps the teacher write a letter that is more personal for the kids, such as, maybe they talk a little bit about things the kids do on the outside that teachers wouldn't normally know about. Typically, we recommend that kids pick 2 different subject areas, meaning it would be important to maybe get a math and a history, or an English or a science, to round out their application. Sorry, I skipped around a bit there.
The college essay is something that has become a huge part of the college application process and the admissions review. There are a variety of essay topics. The Common App allows students to choose from multiple, and one of them is a topic of their choice. And colleges who don't use the Common Application have essays specific to their school. I know Julie talked about, in the college essay being creative and getting personal and asking teachers for assistance. The college essay should really be a reflection of who the student is. So what makes a application stand out is, how is their writing style? Do I feel like I'm connected with that person? Did they put enough details where I really feel like I know them? So the college essay is something that we're going to be talking to our juniors about. We encourage students to save some of their writing samples that they have in English class. I know one teacher does an essay called The Things I Carry, and those are deeply personal essays that can sometimes be used for a college application. With the essay, our counselors are happy to sit and review them with their students, and then also to help them build an essay. For example, I had a student who was really stuck on what should they write, and I've used this example before, but we were talking about, what was some stuff that he enjoyed as a child that he could relate to who he is now and how much he's grown, or what were some things that were unique to him. And we settled on the fact that when he was a kid, he loved the movie Toy Story and really related to the character Buzz Lightyear. So he wrote his essay on how he was similar to that character, how he displayed elements of courage, bravery, hard work, friendship. So he was able to relate to that character through a unique and creative way. So those are some different things that we talk about with our students. As I mentioned, with the standardized testing being testing optional, the essay has just become that much more important. So we are encouraging students to just sit down and write on a Google Doc or a Microsoft Doc, and just write a journal entry, and then meet with us, go over it, meet with your English teachers, help tweak it. And they should be starting to draft one towards the end of their junior year into the summer. We also offer in the fall of their senior year, and we may be doing it towards the end of this year. We had Prompt, which is a college essay writing company, do a presentation on how to write a strong essay and what colleges are looking for. So if that event is going to be happening before the end of the year, we will definitely send that out. But again, the college essay is something that is becoming more and more important. So it's good for students to start thinking about it sooner than later.
So visiting a college campus. So due to kind of how COVID restricted a lot of things, both in high schools and in college, many of the colleges at one point had been really doing virtual tours instead of in person. I've seen a lot more colleges opening up, allowing students to come on campus and do in-person tours. So as you are looking at colleges with your student, you kind of want to check out whether or not any events are coming up, any open houses, or what they're offering in that particular school, so you can determine whether it would be virtual or in person. They are a great way to get a feel for the campus, whether it is online or in person. It allows the student to really see their comfort level of what they're seeing, what the building setups are, just how big it may be, any of the information that will help them determine if it's a right fit for them. How do you do that? You can contact any admissions office or go to their websites. They usually have registration right there for in-person visits, or if there's virtual links, you'll be able to find them there. On the left-hand side, there are also some different websites that we can put in the chat, just to let you know of other ways in which you can do virtual tours online if you can't get to particular campuses. They do usually have them hosted there, and you can click on them and just go through the different tours that are available. So we'll make sure they're put in there. So what are other ways that you can learn about colleges? If your student or you know any family members or friends that have attended a particular school, you can certainly reach out to them, or if there's any alumni here at school that you know of that have gone, you can certainly do that. There's a lot of social media links, Facebooks, other groups that are there that students can join to learn more about that school. Also, one of the big things that I think that students shy away from is beginning a dialogue with admissions officers. Typically, those admissions people are the people that are going to be reading your student's file. So starting dialogues and keeping in touch with admissions persons is a way for students to keep a connection to a particular college. So it's really important that when they're at a college fair here, either at school or a more national one, if they meet somebody, it's usually somebody that's going to be looking at their file. So keeping that connection is really, really great. So financial aid. So this is going to be a big one for you as you're getting into next year, is kind of researching what scholarships are out there. What do I do and how do I apply for financial aid if that's something that you are thinking about doing? The websites here are sample locations where students can set up accounts either in Unigo or Scholly, and that allows them to do set up a profile, and then information is sent to their email to look at different national scholarships that they could apply to. And then FastWeb has different resources there for financial aid or scholarships that you can look into. How do you apply for financial aid? Students will use what's called the free application for federal and student aid. It's called the FAFSA. It's usually available in their senior year beginning on October 1st. What they're going to do is every single year they have to reapply for financial aid. So it's not applying once and then it's covered for 4 years. So they start in their senior year for their freshman year, and then they apply every year after. What's great and was not there in the past is there is what's called the FAFSA forecaster. And this is, I guess, a practice FAFSA. And typically what it does is it gives you guys an early estimate of what your financial aid could look like using any initial data that you have at this time. So it is a great way just to look and see kind of what are you going to be expected to pay. There's also what's called the College Score Card. It's an online site from the U.S. Department of Education. It's great information. So it can give things like college cost, debt, so what's the average amount that's borrowed, and loan defaults that might be out there, the success of graduation, so graduation rates and employment rates for different colleges. And it also allows you to compare costs and value of the higher education. So it is a great website to check out as you're starting this process, just to kind of get some good information before you begin the financial aid process.
I did want to add one thing that I unfortunately left off this slide. Every college is required to have something called a net price calculator. If you go to the college websites and you type in your information, they'll let you know how much the cost, an estimation of how much the cost of that college will be. It can be difficult to find because sometimes colleges don't want to put out that this is how much their school is, but it is in fact on the website. You can actually just go into Google and type in net price calculator for UMass Amherst and get that information. So that's a really helpful tool.
That's great. So the last thing I wanted to talk about in terms of financial option is there is a great program called the Tuition Break, and this is for New England residents. And it allows for thousands of people here in New England to enroll in any out-of-state New England public college and university at a discounted rate. So what it means is students are eligible to use this when they enroll in an approved major that's not offered by that public college or university in their home state. So if they take a major that isn't offered at any of the UMass's or state universities, this is an option for them to use to go out into any of the other 6 states of Connecticut, Maine, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, and Vermont. The website is right below. We'll also put that in the chat so you can take a look at it, but it is a great program to take a look at, especially if the major that your student is thinking about is not offered in any of our public state or universities, either UMass or any of the other ones that are out there.
Before we close the presentation, I did want to talk about some other high school options, because I think we're in a day and age where things are so unpredictable that with COVID, we don't know how students will do or what the requirements will be. Community colleges and mass transfer is a really great option. There are different programs. So I have a student, for example, who's interested in automotive mechanics and doesn't know if he wants to go to an engineering 4-year school. A school like Mass Bay Community College has a program through BMW where he would go to school for a year and then work with BMW as an internship for a year and then go right into the workforce. So it's sometimes the community colleges can be more affordable. If you were to live out west, it's much more common for students to go 2 years to a community college and get their core courses done. It's a lot more economical, and then transfer to get a 4-year degree. I know that that's typically not something that students in the Northeast do, but it is, if you have financial concerns, it's a great way for students to get an education for a lot cheaper. And like I said, there are specific programs, again, like Bunker Hill has a program through Eversource. So students get their degree and then they get a job. I think they have a really high job placement. So, 4-year colleges aren't for everyone. So there are other options. Mass transfer is also where students can go for 2 years and they sign an agreement at Massasoit, for example, and if they maintain a certain GPA, they can have automatic transfer to one of the state colleges. So that's a really great opportunity too, especially for students who aren't sure if they want to go away to school and live somewhere, or they're not sure what they want to do and they're not sure if if they're going to be successful in college. Community colleges are a great option. And there are some community colleges that have agreements where they have housing. So there is Fitchburg State. Also, they have an agreement with the community college out there where you can live at Fitchburg and attend the community college. So there are different things like that if you're not sure. Gap year programs, in other countries, gap year programs are huge. I know in Australia, a lot of students take a year and they do work, or they travel, or they do a military piece. Here in the United States, we have different gap year programs where students can actually go and transfer. Can go and not transfer, but attend maybe a travel program, or there are different things like, not the Peace Corps, but I can't remember the name, where they go and they work for Habitat for Humanity for a year. So students who aren't necessarily ready for college experiences, we have information on travel programs, on different core programs where students can go and get life experience and then transfer. I had a student do one of these programs and then went to Bridgewater State a year after and was really successful at Bridgewater State, and was really grateful she did a gap year because she wasn't ready to do the college experience. There are different career options through Job Corps and Mass Hire, which we have connections with. So if students are interested in going into the workforce after college, or doing a trade school where they go and they do automotive mechanic at Ben Franklin Institute, or they want to do cosmetology, we have different options for students there. So, and again, there's always the military option. And we like to go over with students the occupational handbook to show them if they were to go into this job, how much money they would make, what's the growth of a job, because sometimes people think, okay, well, I'm going to go into the military, but when you look at the growth of where they could move to, it's not as high as what they would have anticipated. So we have all those different options for students. So I wanted to open it up to some questions. I will be sharing this presentation. We will be posting a PDF of the presentation, and we are recording right now. So we'll be posting that to our website, and I will be sending that out to families once we get that up and running. I know it's hard to look at a presentation and have the slides go fast without the actual paper copy. So we're going to be posting that to our website. Is there any questions that anybody has either in the chat, or I know it's a little uncomfortable to want to talk on a Zoom call, so we're happy to answer any questions you might have. To the counselors, is there anything that you can think of that we missed? Okay. We really appreciate all of you coming today. If you do have questions specific to your student, please don't hesitate to reach out to your guidance counselor. We're happy to, help in any way that we can. Thank you so much, and stay safe, everybody.